What's up, everyone? It's Brian here from Exact IT Solutions YouTube channel, where we teach you how to protect your business and educate you on cybersecurity. So today's video is going to be another video in our video series on how to hack proof your business. And today we're going to go a little bit deeper. The last set of videos, we talked about the data layer and how to prevent, guard, and detect and mitigate the threats at those layers. I encourage you to go back and watch those videos if you have not watched them yet. And this continues on with our video series so you understand what it takes to actually do cybersecurity the right way and secure your business. Because let's face it, everyone is like, what the heck is going on out there? Why are all these businesses being hacked all the time? And the reality of it is that we don't do all these things. So the things that I'm going to lay out for you in this 25 video series are going to paint a picture of everything that goes into this and everything that you need to consider as a business owner or business leader or IT professional or IT business leader. These are the things that you need to consider from start to finish when it comes to protecting the data that you don't want other people who shouldn't have their hands on it to get to. This includes cyber criminals, this includes employees, this includes vendors, partners, competitors. Anybody who should not be looking at, seeing, or physically touching the data and the assets that you need to protect in your business, this is what this video series is going to teach you. So without further ado, let's jump into it. And please remember, if you're educated, entertained, enlightened, if we give you a new perspective on things, just remember to hit the like button. And maybe you'll consider subscribing to the channel as we release new videos around this video series. You surely want to get updated when those hit YouTube. So hit the subscribe button, hit the alert bell, and you'll get alerted when we put these videos out over the next 20 or so weeks left that we have in this video series. So without further ado, let's jump into today's content where we get into how to prevent cyber criminals from getting to your applications. And here we go. Okay, up on the screen we have our assets, and this is a bubble that we've used before. It looks a little different this time. We're working on the graphics and the things that we're putting into this video series. But as we have described in the past, we have these 6 layers, right? The 6 layers are the data layer, the application layer, the endpoint layer, the network layer, the perimeter layer, and the human layer. And these are the 6 layers that we are going to cover as the things that you need to consider to protect the thing in the middle here, which is your assets. Your assets can be anything that's valuable to you. It could be customer information, it could be payment information, it could be proprietary drawings or intellectual property that you don't want other people having or getting access to. These are the things that you've identified as critical enough where you need to invest time, money, and resources into protecting these assets. These are typically things that you don't want other people getting their hands on that shouldn't have them, or they hold some kind of value to you and your business. Or on the flip side, if the data did leave your network, it presents risk or it could cost you money if the data could get out there. So one of the steps that we talked about in the data layer is actually preventing and identifying these things. So that would be how you identify these elements that you need to protect, would be back at step 1 in the data layer. So just today we're going to continue on. Today we're going to cover just the application layer. And the application layer is simply all your applications that you run on your computer systems. It's all the software that you need to run on these systems. So we're going to get into today how to prevent. What are the things that you need to do to prevent a cyber criminal, an employee, a competitor, somebody from getting to this stuff that they shouldn't get access to? right? And we're not trying to protect the application itself. We're trying to protect somebody from getting to the assets through this layer. So think about a line of business application, right? A line of business application, a recent thing that was just in the news, Microsoft Exchange had a huge vulnerability. They released all these patches to fix this major problem. They even released patches for server operating systems that were no longer supported by Microsoft. This is how big this event was. And these are the types of applications that run on your systems. So in the case for Microsoft Exchange, it's how you get email. If you're familiar with SolarWinds, because that was another big one, that is an application that companies use to manage networks. These applications are being compromised. There's vulnerabilities in them that hackers can find and use to compromise, to get into your network, to get to your assets. And that's exactly what we're laying out for you here. So when you hear things like Microsoft Exchange, Microsoft released a patch because Hafnium, the hacking group from China, was using this exploit to put backdoors into people's systems, this is exactly what they're talking about. And this is how you go about making sure that hackers cannot get into your system and get access to your assets or encrypt your network through this layer. So just as a recap, how we're going to lay this out for everybody, as you see in the chart here, we have at the top in the dark yellow, we have ASC, and that simply means A is for all businesses. This is what all businesses need to consider as I go through this. The S is security conscious businesses. Maybe you're a business owner who decides like, hey, I don't want to get hacked. I don't want a problem caused in my business. I want to do right by my customers and the people that trust me with their data. So I'm going to take cybersecurity seriously, even though nobody's forcing me to do it. If that sounds like you, or that's who you want to be as a business owner, and I highly encourage you to be that business owner. That's what the S is for in this table. The C in this table is for compliance-driven businesses. So if you are in a regulated industry, if you're signing contracts with companies where you are saying that you're doing some level of cybersecurity, you might have cyber insurance that puts you automatically in a compliance situation, because in order for your cyber insurance to be paid out if you ever file a claim, there's certain things that you need to be doing to make sure that that claim gets paid. If you're not, they will deny your claim. So many businesses don't realize that they're under compliance just by purchasing cyber insurance. This can also come from the contracts you sign, laws in your state, laws at the federal level, laws at the local level if you're in certain cities and things like that. So if you are a business that falls in kind of those categories, which more and more businesses are actually falling in these categories, I would say at least 60% of the businesses out there today fall under some level of compliance, whether it's from a state, a federal, or a client or a industry regulation. So that's what ASC represents in this chart as I go through the talk here today. The other thing here is that we also have N, R, and M that you'll see as our recommendations for what you should be doing based on your business classification from above, A, S, or C. N just stands for it's not essential. You can do it if you want, but we wouldn't consider it something to be critically important to your business. R is recommended. It's something that we recommend that you do, but it's not going to be something that gets you into hot water if you don't do it. M, on the other hand, is mandatory. It means that if you are security conscious, if you're compliance driven, or we may say that this is mandatory for all businesses. That's what the M stands for as we go through in the talk today. So now that you have that basis for everything, let's jump into what we're going to talk about today. and that is protecting our application layer. And the application layer itself, we've identified some things here, and the chart's up right above my head here to my right shoulder on the screen. And this is how you prevent attacks at the application layer. So line of business software management, and we are going recommended across the board for all businesses here. And I've already kind of talked about line of business software management. So line of business software is just the software that you use in your business that typically most people aren't going to buy in general. So it's not Microsoft Office. It's not the Office suite of applications like Project and Visio and things like that. Those are more not line of business software because most businesses use them. It's not specific to a business or an industry. We're talking about these industry-specific businesses that or software that you might use. QuickBooks could be one of them. Although most businesses use QuickBooks, QuickBooks would be considered a line of business application because not everybody really uses QuickBooks, right? Maybe a few people within a company use QuickBooks, but it's not widespread or through all users, unless of course you're in the bookkeeping or accounting space or you do financials in some way for companies. Then we're talking about, a line of business application there for you as well. But really, this is like your if you're in engineering, this is your drafting, your CAD software, AutoCAD and Revit and things like that. It is Microsoft Exchange if you run your own Exchange server. It's SolarWinds. It's all the applications that you might use. So think about and identify all the line of business applications that you might use in your business. If you're a lawyer, you might use case management software. If you're an accountant, you might use tax planning software. There's a lot of different softwares built specifically for certain businesses and certain industries, and that's what we're talking about here. And what you need to make sure that you're doing is you need to make sure that you have a plan in place to make sure that these line of business software applications are updated on a frequent basis. Usually this requires you subscribing or paying for a support agreement with that vendor. And when that's in place, they will provide you with regular updates that usually plug things like security holes and also, add features and take care of bugs and things that just don't work within the system. But most importantly, they're going to patch any security issues that are found along the way by security researchers or stuff that goes out in the wild that's well known that they realize that they need to patch. So all across the board, no matter what kind of business you are, we recommend that you are doing this at some level. Someone is checking for updates. Someone is making sure that your system has the latest updates applied and that there's a regularly scheduled updates process in your business that you're following, a schedule. So you want to make sure that somebody's doing this at least once a quarter. I would say even once a month or more frequent, depending on how often your vendor puts these updates out. If you work with a managed service provider or an IT company like Exact IT Solutions, we have put systems and built proprietary automation around a lot of this stuff so we can do this without a lot of human touches and resources, and a lot of it can be done in the evening when you're not using your computer. So that's the advantage of working with a company who has this capability and technology versus trying to go about it on your own. The next line item here is patch management, and that's mandatory across all businesses. Everybody needs to make sure that their Windows operating system, their Linux operating system, their Apple, Mac OS operating systems, any operating system on your phones are applied, right? And this goes along with any software that might run on other devices like cameras and things like that. But mainly it has to do with the computers, right? Make sure the operating systems are getting up to date. Make sure that you're downloading them from Microsoft or Apple or Linux, and make sure that you're going through the process of updating all of these computers and assets that you have in your business. It's pretty simple. Again, many IT companies and IT departments have the ability to automate this, but you can set out of the box, if you're just a 1 or 2 person company, you can set out of the box, Windows to schedule updates for your system, so it happens almost automatically. So, and then moving right along, server maintenance. Now, we wanted to point this out and make it mandatory for everybody because it's pretty simple. It's the same concept as patch management, but it goes a little deeper. Servers require a little bit more attention than just Windows updates. Sometimes they have special software that runs so your IT people can manage things a little bit easier, maybe manage things remotely, or just get a better look at the server itself from a technical standpoint than going through logs and things like that. There's software that is available on most server platforms that kind of aggregate this information and make it much easier for an IT person to see what's going on with that system. So that's really server maintenance, and that software, you need to make sure that somebody is making sure that that's up to date, because believe it or not, there are a ton of exploits that happen through this kind of software. And just think about it. It's software that looks at all the components within a server. So think about what kind of access that software needs to have in order to get to the data that it's actually looking for. So if somebody can exploit the software that's on these servers that manage the servers, that's not a good thing. There's a lot of bad things that can happen from there. So having somebody looking at your server and making sure that it's regularly getting patched and updated from a lot of different aspects than just Windows is critically important and mandatory for all business types. Now, the last one I'm going to jump into is application whitelist, and I have zero trust here because it is a zero trust model. Zero trust quickly is just nothing is trusted. We don't trust anything on the network until a human or some kind of automation that a human built and verified says, okay, this application is okay to run on our network. Now, for all businesses, we're saying this is not essential. But if you are a security conscious business or you are under compliance, application whitelisting is huge, and we highly recommend that you consider it as part of your security posture at your company. And what this means is that your IT company or your IT professionals at your business will actually go through a process of allowing every single application to run on your systems and computers. Now, the huge benefit of this is that you will not have things like ransomware and malware running on your system. It's designed to block it from running, and it won't run unless somebody comes along and allows it and gives it the proper permissions. So if a hacker gets on your system and tries to deploy this stuff and you have application whitelisting in place and they try to put their tools on your system, they're not going to get anywhere. So that's the really nice feature, and it's really good. And the technology that's out today has gotten so good that it's not as disruptive as you would think to your business. But that brings up my con for this type of technology, and that is simply that it is a little bit more labor intensive to roll out because somebody has to go through a process of saying whether or not an application is approved or not. And that can take some time. And it also can frustrate certain business people who like to just get things going and install things on their computer. That's going to eliminate the ability for anyone to do this. Now, you shouldn't be allowed to install software on your computer in the first place. There should be some kind of admin credential that you must put in before software gets installed. But there are other things that can be installed without admin credentials, and just the fact that you have to kind of go through a process to ask for permission to get it can seem like a hindrance to a lot of people. So I just want to caution you that when you do put something like this onto your network, it will require you to be involved a little bit more on what can and what can't go on to the systems. But once you have these rules set in place, it kind of runs like clockwork, and the security that you get out of this is unparalleled. So we really recommend that if you can and you're willing to put in the effort to deploy a application whitelist or a zero trust, we recommend that you do this as well. And then we're going to talk about zero trust at the network layer in 2 more sections as well, because you can do zero trust at a lot of different places, and if you do it in a lot of different places, you're making your network infinitely more secure, and you're also making it a really, really unattractive target for a cyber criminal to try to exploit. So I hope you found this valuable, folks. That wraps up this video for this week. Next week, we're going to continue on in the application layer, and we're going to discuss how you guard, detect, and mitigate everything at the application layer. That's what's coming up in the next 2 or 3 videos that we're going to do. So if you have any comments, questions about what I covered here, drop it in the comments below. Otherwise, we will see you in our next video. I hope you enjoyed this. Take care, everyone.